screen. Okay. Okay. To design research, to design mixed method research, actually, for designing any type of research, as I mentioned before, this Sanders onion, it's very good benchmark. In this onion, actually, we can see different or all necessary components of a research design. So research design is not only about methodology, is not only about methodology, data collection, and data analysis. Sometimes we ask, what's your method? The student jump to last layer of this onion. Always I said to a student that last layer is last layer. You have to identify other layers of this onion in your research design. First is research paradigm. We have to identify our research paradigm. And then is research approach. So under research paradigm, we have positivism, we have interpretivism, we have realism, we have critical realism. Under research approach, we have deductive or inductive reasoning, and also abductive reasoning. So in our research, even in qualitative or quantitative, we have to identify our reasoning, our research approach. And then we can go to method or methodological choice. So our methodological choice, addition to research question, also identify based on our research paradigm and research approach, reasoning of our research, right? So after we identify our research method, that this can be mono method like qualitative or quantitative, can be multiple method, and under multiple method, mixed method or multi-method. So we have different choices for this layer. So we have to explain and we have to justify why mixed method is suitable for our research. And here we need to discuss appropriateness of mixed method connected to our research question, right? And then after we identify our research method, we have to explain and we have to identify our research strategy in this layer. Research strategy in this layer. So for quantitative and qualitative, some of research strategy can fit. For example, for grounded theory or for ethnography, we cannot apply ethnography strategy for quantitative research. This is for qualitative research, right? And the narrative inquiries for qualitative, but experiment can be quantitative. Survey can be quantitative. Archival data, if we use panel data and secondary data, numeric secondary data, can be qualitative. But if archival data is document, so should be qualitative, right? And then this is time. Our study is cross-sectional or longitudinal. And the last layer is data collection and data analysis. So this is also should be followed and applicable for mixed method. So for mixed method, we have to identify our research paradigm, our research approach, and then after that, what research strategy we apply for mixed method. Mixed method, we mixing, right? You're mixing qualitative and quantitative. So we need to explain what a strategy for qualitative part and what strategy for quantitative part. And what data collection method we use for qualitative, what data collection method we apply for quantitative, and what data analysis for qualitative, quantitative. So for mixed method, we have to follow all these steps. And one of the important criterion to assess rigorousness or robustness of mixed method is rigorousness of qualitative and quantitative. So in qualitative and in mixed method, we apply both qualitative and quantitative. So should be both qualitative and quantitative should be robust. So we need to consider all criteria for robustness of each one, right? But addition to those criteria, also we need to check some criteria for robustness of or rigorousness of mixed method. So when we mix qualitative and quantitative, we have to consider some criteria, right? Okay, so for mixed method also, this onion is can be used as a benchmark, and we have to explain all these layers of this onion. If I want to go to first layer, when we want to design mixed method, first layer of this onion is paradigm. We know for quantitative, the dominant paradigm is positivism. The dominant paradigm for quantitative is positivism. You know, I don't want to go through detailed discussion about paradigm, but you know, paradigm comes from our mind, not from research. And paradigm is based on answer to three main questions: epistemological question, ontological question, and axiological question. Answer to question about reality, about nature of knowledge, and about values, role of values in our research. So our answers to those questions identify our paradigm. What we think about validity of knowledge, what we think about the nature of reality, and what we think about role of values on research. So our answer to those questions identify our paradigm, and paradigm comes from our mind and our thinking, not from our research. Based on our paradigm, we apply different research methods. If our paradigm is close to interpretivist, so we apply qualitative. If our paradigm is close to positivist, we apply quantitative and deductive reasoning. But for interpretivism, we apply inductive reasoning. So paradigm is connected to our research. Okay, so if qualitative and quantitative come from our paradigm, and paradigms come from our thinking, our answer to three main questions, so how we can apply mixed method, right? If we categorize under interpretivism paradigm, constructivism paradigm, so we have to apply qualitative because we believe social phenomena are not measurable. Social phenomena we can get different reality about social phenomena, and there is no a common understanding about social phenomena. So we have to apply qualitative and inductive reasoning. But if we come from a positivist perspective, we have to apply quantitative. So what about mixed method? So from this point, actually discussion about paradigmatic or paradigm of mixed method research actually was started, and researchers try to discuss, okay, if we believe our research need the mixed method, so what about our paradigm? So pragmatic paradigm and critical realism paradigm, critical realism paradigm were identified as suitable paradigm to explain and justify and support mixed method research. Because actually pragmatic paradigm, different in contrary with the interpretivism and positivism, come from research, is a problem-based, is an objective-based paradigm. Because pragmatic paradigm want to find solution for the problem. From this perspective, any type of method can be acceptable, and we can have different valid type of knowledge. Knowledge come from positivist epistemology, or knowledge come from interpretivist epistemology. So pragmatic paradigm and also critical realism. Actually, we have two types of realism. We have realism and critical realism. Realism is very close to positivist, close to positivism paradigm. And I believe in social science, we don't apply and we don't actually, our paradigm in quantitative research is not positivist. Positivism paradigm, yeah, at the beginning, this type of quantitative research that work with objective concept, objective phenomena was positivism. But when we work with subjective concept, like the concept that we are working in social sciences, like, for example, we measure, we work with belief, we work with values, attitudes, loyalty, satisfaction, these type of concept. These type of concept actually are subjective concept. When we talk about perception, are subjective concept, but still we measure those concepts. So our paradigm to deal with these type of subjective realism is not positive. But now here is not actually the good place to discuss about this one. But critical realism actually believe that subjective concept also can be measured. And our measurement for subjective concept are acceptable, right? So reality exists outside of perception of people. When we say reality exists outside, so it means subjective concept like value, like belief, like loyalty, satisfaction is not only in mind of people, so can be measured, but in different ways. In quantitative research, we talk about measurement. We talk a lot about measurement and how measurement of social concept, subjective concept, and in a practical way and operational way, we say latent variable, because these type of social concepts are latent variable, but this is the name that we give in operational level. Can be measured. but we have a very long discussion and debate about measurement of those concepts, but still can be measured. So based on critical realism, actually, we can deal with both objective concept and subjective concept. And the knowledge from qualitative and quantitative can be valid knowledge. So under umbrella of pragmatism and critical realism, we can justify application of mixed method. So if we apply mixed method, our paradigm can be pragmatism paradigm or critical realism paradigm. When we go for mixed method, we are no more under umbrella of interpretivism, because we have to apply also quantitative. And we are not under positivism paradigm, because we have to apply qualitative also. And we need knowledge from both qualitative and quantitative. So the paradigm for mixed method research is pragmatism, and can be also critical realism, right? So this is first part of first layer of Sanders onion. So we have to explain in our mixed method research, we have to explain that in our paper, in our thesis, that we follow pragmatism or critical realism paradigm to justify mixed method. We cannot skip this one, because if you submit your paper to good journal, reviewer will ask, okay, when you apply mixed method, especially in your thesis, if you don't mention, because in thesis, we have to discuss our paradigm, our philosophy for research at the beginning of research methodology. So pragmatism or critical realism is our suitable paradigm when we apply mixed method. So this is first one. Second part, to design a mixed method, we need to see our theoretical framework. We have to go to a strategy for conducting our research. We have to look at data collection and data analysis. When we conduct each one, when we conduct data collection for qualitative and quantitative, what analysis technique we apply for quantitative and qualitative, what strategy, and when and where we combine this data collection, which one come first, which one come later, how data collection, how data analysis results should be interpreted, the interpretation happen where and when, right? So based on answer to those questions, actually we can identify our mixed method design. So we need to answer to this question to see what mixed method design is suitable for our research. But actually answering to these questions are not easy. So because of that, okay, we're going to, yeah. So because of that, we can see literature, for example, Tedley and Tashakuri in their work in 2003, they identified 35 different mixed method design. 35 mixed method design based on answer to this question and the place of quantitative and qualitative in our research. Inclusion of qualitative, to what extent, where, when, How? So they identify 35 different designs. If we look at another books, papers, we can see different typology and different design of mixed method. For example, Creswell in some book and article came out with the 30 different designs. And then he tried to summarize, he tried to combine some design and came out with 10 different designs. And later this has changed. Still there are not consensus for this typology of design. Here I actually try to go through some typology, but at the end I will discuss some typology that are very common, and almost most of research, mixed method research, can be categorized under those typology, but not all, right? Not all. Still, there are some type of research that we need to look at other design and typology for mixed method. So here we have a step 2 from Venkatesh's work. Here we can see for design, for combining mixed method, he, based on Creswell, actually, and Tedley and Kashakuri, he came out with some categorization. Mixed method research into equivalent status design. So qualitative and quantitative has the same weight, are equal, or dominant. This can be another criteria to for categorization of mixed method design. One can be dominant, qualitative can be dominant, or quantitative can be dominant. Another criteria is exploratory or confirmatory. Based on the objective of our research, based on our research question, research can be exploratory or can be confirmatory. So based on this, we have different types of research mixed method design. Also, the mixing of qualitative and quantitative can be fully or partially. Means from the beginning and from research objective, research question, we know and we include the qualitative and both qualitative and quantitative viewpoints. And then we have quantitative and qualitative in data collection states, and we have qualitative and quantitative in data analysis. So we have fully mixed. So mixing of qualitative and quantitative happen throughout the research process, in whole research process, but sometimes partially. Our research objective is looks only quantitative, and then when we collect data and in analysis stage, only we use both qualitative and quantitative. So this is partially mixing, partially combination of qualitative and quantitative. So this is another criteria that can be used for research for mixed method design. In data collection, in data analysis, as I explained, we can do this mixing. And also mixing of the qualitative and quantitative can be sequential or can be concurrent. So time of mixing can be another criterion for mixed method design. So here you can see some criteria for designing mixed method, right? Like equivalent or dominant, exploratory, confirmatory, partially or mixed, partially or fully, different types of data collection, data analysis, time, sequential or concurrent, right? So these can be some criteria to identify mixed method design. So here, based on Venkatesh's work, we can see but three main design: concurrent mixed method, and the sequential, qualitative, quantitative. So qualitative come first and quantitative come later, and sequential, quantitative, qualitative. So quantitative come first and then qualitative. Later we'll explain in very detail about each one. So we can have different design based on these criteria. Another categorization is actually done by this study, right? In this study, we have three main criteria for designing mixed method. Level of mixing is partially or fully. Time orientation is concurrent or sequential. Which come first? And equivalence or dominant. So this study tried to summarize those vast categorization based on these three main criteria: level of mixing, time, and emphasis of approaches. Which one is dominant and which one is, and or equivalent status. Here, this is from this work, same work. So you can see this tree. You can see this diagram. So mixed method design, we have mixing level, mixing dimension. So it's partially or fully. In second layer, you can see time dimension. So for partially, you have concurrent, sequential. For fully, you have concurrent and sequential. And another layer is emphasis dimension. Which one is dominant? Equivalent, equal status, or dominant status. And for dominant status, we have again two options. Qualitative is dominant and quantitative is dominant. But for partially sequential, again, we have equivalent, dominant, qualitative, quantitative. Fully concurrent, equal, dominant. Fully sequential, equal, dominant. So here also you can see different design. So you can see mixed method can happen concurrently, can happen sequentially, can happen partially and fully, and dominant and equivalent status based on these based on this diagram and these three dimensions. So here you can see you have at least 12 different design. If under each one we have one equal and two under dominant, so we have three under each time dimension. So at least we have 12. Also, this 12 can be more because when we say partially or fully, this partially can happen in different stage of research. This partially can be in data collection stage or can be in data analysis stage. So again, both are partially. right? So we have more design even based on these 3 dimensions. So you can see there is not a strong consensus for different design of mixed method. So we want to apply mixed method, and we want to use mixed method in our research. So we are user. What we need to do? Because you can see there are many different designs. As I mentioned, in some book there are 35, in some book there are 30. So how we can differentiate between those designs and how we can select that design for our study. So because of that, based on my understanding and based on literature, I try to, this is not mine, it's not the, from my perspective. Actually, there are some sort of consensus for this categorization. And this categorization is most common categorization in different basic books, seminal works for mixed method design. So I believe if we fully understand these 4 main categories, we can handle different types of mixed method design, right? But what is these 4 main categories? But actually this is 4 categories, not 4 design, because under some categories we have more than 1, but it's not difficult to identify and to actually understand the different design under each category. So we have these 4 main categories for mixed method. First one is sequential exploratory. So sequential exploratory started with qualitative and followed by quantitative. Later I will explain in detail. Here we can get an overview of these 4 categories. Second category is sequential explanatory. We have explanatory design, is more confirmatory. But first one is exploratory, more exploratory. So here we can see time dimension because this is sequential. Also, we can see confirmatory and exploratory from Venkatesh's categorization. Also, we can see equivalent or dominant from different categorization. When we say qualitative comes first for sequential exploratory, means most of time qualitative is dominant. Qualitative is dominant, but not always. Sometimes, even for sequentially exploratory, we can give equal weight to qualitative and quantitative. For sequential explanatory, it seems when quantitative comes first, so quantitative is dominant and qualitative is used to illustrate, to explain the result of quantitative. So most of time, quantitative is dominant. But it's much easier to understand and much easier to design. This sequential explanatory is clearer, right? Based on our research objective, and to answer our research objective, quantitative should come first for sequential explanatory. Two other categories are concurrent triangulation and concurrent embedded. So we have dimension of time, right? Concurrent means we conduct qualitative and quantitative concurrently, simultaneously at the same time, right? So it's not sequential. There is no sequence for conducting qualitative and quantitative. So we can see time dimension here, concurrent, right? So these two designs are concurrent design. But the purpose of these two designs are different. One is concurrent triangulation. Concurrent triangulation. For concurrent triangulation, we collect concurrent data, conduct qualitative and quantitative concurrently with almost same weights for qualitative and quantitative. So for concurrent triangulation, both qualitative and quantitative can have almost same weight. And we collect data for qualitative and quantitative together. We don't need to wait for result of qualitative to collect data for quantitative. We don't need to wait for result of qualitative to collect quantitative data. We can collect at the same time. And the last one is concurrent embedded. One is dominant. Qualitative, for example, is dominant. But we conduct quantitative, qualitative is dominant. We conduct quantitative as an embedded or nested method. And contribution of second method is partial contribution. Most of time is concurrent, embedded, or nested. We collect data from, we conduct qualitative and quantitative for two research objectives. That one is main research objective. But still we need to collect data for another research objective. So for second research objective, we collect, for example, if for main we collected quantitative, we collect qualitative. If for main we collected qualitative, we collect quantitative. I will give you some example for each one. Sequential exploratory. Sequential exploratory, actually, as I mentioned, qualitative always come first. The objective of research is actually the type of this research design is to explore. Is not to only confer, is to explore. So there are something that we want to add, that those things, those components, those variables, those items are not exist. So we want to add those variables. We want to add those viewpoints. before going to quantitative for validation of this, for example, conceptual framework or validation of this scale, right? So in this approach, in this design, we start with qualitative to explore new things. And then we develop our framework, or if develop our scale, proposed scale, based on analysis of result of qualitative. Okay, so in this design, we collect qualitative, we analyze qualitative, and interpret qualitative result, and then based on this, based on the result of qualitative, we develop quantitative phase and go for data collection. Right? So this sequential exploratory, it's actually fit and match with developmental purpose of mixed method. If purpose of research is developmental, sequential exploratory is the best design. When we want to add more variable to our framework, when we want to add variable, but we don't have items for that variable, we want to get those items from qualitative phase. When we want to develop instrument, so we want to add more components to our instrument, right? So this sequential exploratory is the best. And most of time, this sequential exploratory is suitable for development purpose, developmental research, right? So in this sequential exploratory, qualitative come first and followed by quantitative, and quantitative is designed based on result of qualitative. So we don't analyze and we don't interpret result only in last stage. For a starting quantitative, we need result of qualitative. So we have to analyze. So this sequential exploratory takes time because we need to collect data in 2 different phases. And this cannot happen concurrently, right? And most of time, priority goes to quality. So most of time, qualitative is dominant, but not always. For example, for scale development, we cannot say qualitative is dominant. We need both qualitative. We need qualitative to develop new items or new variable, and we need quantitative to validate our proposed scale. So both are necessary, and we cannot give priority to one method.
Excuse me, Mustafa, can I have a question here? Because in this situation, you say you like validate like this construct of variable, and at the end, do I still put this variable as my hypothesis to test or model?
I didn't get your question. You mean that if we develop some new variable?
Yeah, new variable, yeah, or new scale, yeah, or new items, yeah, to measure this variable.
Yeah, of course, you have to put in your hypothesis, but hypothesis is for quantitative phase.
Okay, okay. Then in
hypothesis, before you hypothesize your relationship, your effect, you have to conduct qualitative phase. And you have to analyze result of qualitative. When you analyze result of qualitative, you know your new component and items to measure those components.
Come on, yeah.
So those components should be included in hypothesis in quantitative phase.
Okay, I got, yeah, now I clear, yeah. So and in this case, for the literature review part, so we start to review the variable that we're gonna give a new conceptualization first, or we review like literature review. We mainly review each variable first.
You have to review the literature for your variable, your hypothesis, and conceptualize your framework. But you believe that those components are not sufficient in your research, and you have to add more variable, you have to add more construct. But you don't have literature and you don't have theory to support effect of those variable on your dependent variable, for example, right? So you first you develop your conceptual framework based on existing theory and literature. But for adding those new variables, you have to report result of qualitative.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
This sequence that I explained, this is sequence of research, not writing paper. In writing paper, you might be start from literature and you write your hypothesis, but in methodology, you can explain, for example, variable A, B, C, D come from literature and come from theory. So you have theory and you have literature to support effect of variable A, B, C, D on DV, but variable E and F come from your qualitative phase. So because for E and F, you don't have literature, you don't have support from established theory, so you conducted a qualitative phase to develop these two new variables and items to measure those variables. This is the process of qualitative and this is the result of qualitative. So based on qualitative phase, you included these two new variables to your framework. So you can have this type of writing in your paper, but for conducting your research, you have to follow this sequence. You have to start from qualitative phase, develop your new item, you have literature for existing variable, and you include the result of qualitative with existing variable to propose to conceptualize your frame. It's clear, right? Okay. So this is first type of first category of design, and one of the most actually used mixed method design. So again, here you can see testing elements of an emergent theory resulting from qualitative, new variable, new hypothesis. To also sometime we apply this sequential exploratory. We have result of qualitative. For example, we don't have prior studies, right? We want to understand the factor influencing on adoption of technology in a rural area, or adoption of mobile app, using mobile app, right, for online purchasing. We have literature, but we don't have this literature in rural area. And we know there are big differences between existing literature and the concept of rural resident. So we start from qualitative phase, and we develop some item, we develop some components, some variable, and we develop conceptual framework. But we want to generalize. You know, qualitative study always is context-based study. So we cannot generalize result of qualitative. Generalizability is not aim of qualitative. Qualitative always is very, very case-based, context-based. But we want to generalize. So we develop conceptual framework, we propose a framework, and we apply quantitative phase to validate this framework and generalize the result. So this is also can be, this sequential exploratory can be suitable for this concept. Still, the purpose of this study, this mixed method, is development. We develop new theory, we develop new model, but validate using quantitative and can generalize the result using quantitative. And also develop and test the test instrument that we discussed. So this is the first type, first design, and most used design of mixed method. When I say the most, I think I have data from this. If I go back again to this 753 papers, you can see here is yeah, the sequential data collection, that most of these sequential are exploratory, so started by qualitative and continue by quantitative, is 94% of papers. So this is one of the main design for mixed method, sequential exploratory. And this sequential exploratory, from the objective, we know we want to collect both qualitative and quantitative data, but in a sequence, right? Second design is sequential explanatory, not exploratory. Here we have explanatory. In sequential explanatory, quantitative comes first. Quantitative comes first. So based on result of quantitative, when we say quantitative comes first, means quantitative data collection and quantitative data analysis come first. Then based on result of quantitative, we decide to collect also qualitative, most of the time, not always, right? So for qualitative part, in second stage, we need result of quantitative because this is sequential. And priority in this type of research most of times goes to quantitative phase, right? So quantitative phase is dominant method in this sequential explanatory. So we have data collection in two different stages based on sequence, and of course we have interpretation in integration of result in interpretation phase. This method, this sequential explanatory, can fit most on compensation. When we have result of quantitative, but we have insignificant result for some relationship, right? We have insignificant result for some relationship, and we want to understand why. We want to understand why and the reason for insignificant result. So unexpected result can be interpreted by applying qualitative phase. So the main approach is quantitative, we conceptualize our framework. We have prior knowledge. We have established theory for conducting quantitative. So we conceptualize our framework. We don't have any shortcoming or problem to conceptualize our framework. So we do all these based on previous studies, conceptualize our framework. But after analyzing our quantitative data, we see there are some unexpected results. I cannot understand those results. And we need to conduct a qualitative phase for more insight, to understand the reason, to understand unexpected results, right? So this type of method, this type of design, as I mentioned, fit to most of time compensation. Why I don't say it completeness or complementarity, because actually for completeness and complementarity, we know from the beginning that we want to have a complete picture. We want to have a bigger picture for a specific phenomenon. So we have to collect data from different sources, or we have to collect data qualitatively and quantitatively from same respondent. So we don't need to wait for result of one method. We don't need to wait for result of quantitative to decide for qualitative. We don't need. But for this sequential explanatory, most of time, result of quantitative, we need result of quantitative to decide and to start collecting data for qualitative. Right? So we need this sequence. We start with quantitative. So our research is quantitative dominant, but then we decide for go for qualitative, right? So this is sequential explanatory. Is it clear?
Proof. Could you kind of give an example on this one? Like, for example, if like satisfaction and customer loyalty, the relationship between these variables are insignificant. Right. So what are we going to do in qualitative phase? Yeah.
You assess effect of some variable on loyalty, right?
Yeah, just example.
Yeah. You have you justify effect of, for example, you apply a specific theory to see effect of attitude, to see effect of service quality, to Correct. See effect of experience on satisfaction, right?
Yeah.
But you conduct your research, you based on overall theory, you establish theory, you and literature, you develop this framework.
Yeah.
But you collected data from Malaysia.
Yes. Yeah.
Heritage context in Malaysia, right?
Yeah.
Okay. After collecting data and analyzing this framework, you see most of your variables are not significant on satisfaction, right?
Yeah.
So something should happen, but you don't know why this established framework is not working in your context. Sometimes we can interpret, for example, we can say based on demographic characteristic of our respondent or based on context, we can interpret and we can justify why the results are not significant. But sometimes no. You decide to go to interview with the customers. You choose a few customer and do interview, what's the factor that influence on your satisfaction, right? And you can actually do semi-structured interview. You use some previous variable to see what customers say about reason, right? What customers say about reason for their satisfaction or unsatisfaction. So this for the satisfaction or dissatisfaction. So when you go for interview, you can identify reason. For example, in your interview, you understand, okay, in this context, attitude is not important because of some reason that you can get from interview. Attitude is not the significant component for satisfaction. Instead of attitude, culture is very important, right? Belonging to a community is very important. Authenticity is very important, but you didn't include authenticity in your framework, but you have another variable in your framework. So that variable is not important in this context. So you can understand reason. You can understand reason. And in discussion part, because of this, interpretation for this type of research, for this type of design, always happen in discussion part. Okay, so in discussion part, when you report result of quantitative, you can use result of qualitative to interpret and to justify why I could not get significant result for the effect of this variable on satisfaction. This is the reason. And you can get those reasons from qualitative. Right?
Okay. I got it clear.
So because of that, I say this type of design is most fit to compensation. Compensation, not completeness and complementary purpose. Because we have here result of quantitative, but unexpected result, right? Okay, this is for second type of or second design of mixed method. Any question?
Yeah, Dr. Mustafa.
Yes.
I have two questions here. Okay, the first one, is it must be unexpected results? How about if my relationships, the relationship between the variables are significant, but then I want to know more about the contextual factors that make this relationship significant. Is it possible?
Yes, of course. This is not necessary that always we get unexpected result to go for qualitative phase. Sometimes we see the result is very strong, but this very strong result we don't have experience. Previous studied also have significant result, but there are significant difference between our result and previous study. Or we want to understand more in depth reason for this significant result.
Yes, yes.
Right? So we can apply, we can conduct this type of mixed method. But the most important thing for this sequential explanatory is conducting qualitative after we analyze and get the result of quantitative.
Yes.
So for this type of mixed method, from the beginning, we don't decide about this type of mixed method. Because this type of mixed method most of time should be based on interpretation of quantitative phase, right? But to understand reason. If from the beginning we decide to go for both qualitative and quantitative, this can be complementary or completeness, right? And we don't need result of one part. We don't need result of qualitative to start collecting, to start conducting qualitative phase, to start collecting qualitative data. Both can be happen together. This is another type of mixed method design. So if from the beginning we know we can collect data and we want to collect data for both, so will be concurrent, won't be sequential. We don't need to wait for the result of quantitative to start qualitative, right?
Okay. One more question is Dr. Mustafa.
Yes.
As you mentioned just now, for this sequential explanatory, we need to integrate the results, the quality and the quantity results, right? You need to integrate.
Yes.
But
integrate in interpretation, in discussion part.
Yeah. If in thesis means we need to report this in the chapter 5, right?
Yes.
But then I have questions because sometimes.
Okay, Dr. Tien. Wait. Now I'm talking about steps of research, not writing style in our thesis or paper. Okay. We can report the result in chapter 5 of research, our thesis, or in discussion part of our paper. But actually, the sequence of data collection that we need to explain in method for this one is quantitative first and then qualitative. So we need to justify why we conducted quantitative phase and when decide to conduct qualitative after quantitative, right? So in methodology, we have to justify this one. But the report of result, can be in discussion part, and we can explain reason in discussion part based on qualitative data and qualitative result.
So, okay, thanks, Dr. Mustafa, thank you.
Hope is clear.
Yeah, clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is two main part. Another part that is very common also, and used in mixed method research is concurrent design. Concurrent triangulation, actually we collect the qualitative and quantitative at the same time, right? And we don't have any sequence for qualitative and quantitative. This concurrent data collection can be also from two different respondents. For example, one respondent are customers or employees, another respondent are managers. One respondent are a student, another respondent are teachers, right? So respondent can be different groups, but actually we can collect data simultaneously. We can collect data concurrently. We don't need to wait. When we say sequential, means to conduct the second phase, we need result of first phase. So second phase cannot be done, cannot be, the data for second phase cannot be collected before result of first phase. So this is the meaning of sequence. But in concurrent, we can collect data concurrently. We don't need to wait for one method to start another method, to start data collection for another method, another part. So we collect quantitative and qualitative data concurrently, right? So this concurrent triangulation, concurrent design can feed to completeness purpose, can be for complementary purpose, can be for expansion also, right? Can be for confirmation. So different purposes can fit on this type of design. We need to see what's our research objective and why we want to collect both qualitative and quantitative data for our research. We want to get a complete picture. So we collect data for customers. We collect data from customers, and also we collect data from other party, for example, hotel managers, guests and hotel managers, for behavior of customers. We collect data from student and teacher, qualitative from teachers and quantitative from student, to understand performance of a student, to get a complete picture. We decide to collect both qualitative and quantitative data from students, right? Or from customers, to have a complementary perspective. We have the result of quantitative, and then we decide to also collect qualitative data from customers to have a good picture, wider picture for their perception about green behavior, right? So generally, again, not always, generally for concurrent triangulation, weight of qualitative and quantitative almost are equal. So they have equal weight. One quantitative or qualitative is not dominant, but it depends on our research. Also, we can, in concurrent triangulation, we can give dominant weight to one method. For example, for customers' green behavior, okay, the dominant part is quantitative. We develop our questionnaire and our conceptual framework based on previous study, and we have we have support from established theory to conceptualize our framework. So our dominant method is quantitative, but at the same time, not after result of quantitative. At the same time, we want to do some interview to get more insight, to have a wider picture, to have a complete picture about behavior. So we collect data, we collect quantitative data, and then at the same time, we do interview with some customer, right? So in interpretation level, we combine results. Sometimes we get complementary perspective. Sometimes we complete our picture from two perspectives, diversify our picture based on these two data. And sometimes we want to confirm result of quantitative by qualitative, right? For example, for same example, for customers, okay, we have a framework, we develop framework and test relationship on intention for green behavior. But also we want to confirm result of quantitative and relationship based on qualitative study. So this is confirmation, right? So this is corroboration. So different purpose of research can be fit on this type of design. But the characteristic of design is collecting data and conducting qualitative and quantitative concurrently, right? And interpret the result based on all research objective and purpose of this mixed method in discussion part. If the purpose is completeness, if the purpose is complementary, so we can discuss how these two results complete each other and how can these two results feed each other. But if we can diversify, expand result. But if it's confirmation, we have to explain result of qualitative and then result of quantitative and see how they confirm, how we can cross-validate result from these two methods. So based on purpose of research, this concurrent triangulation can be applied, and the result of qualitative and quantitative can be interpreted in discussion. So we don't need to wait for result of one party, result of one method to go for collecting data for result of another method, right? So this is concurrent triangulation. Also, you can see this method fit in different research purposes and research questions. So this method also is a popular method, popular design under mixed method design, but especially for completeness and complementary. But for confirmation and triangulation, but triangulation means confirmation of result. Cross-validation of result, this maybe we have some conflict because the result of one part cannot be confirmed by result of another method. So this will be very challenging. But we don't have this challenge if the purpose is completeness or complementary, right? So by this method, actually, the two methods can strengthen each other. So the two methods can cover weaknesses of another method. We can get a wider perspective, a complete perspective and picture. So this concurrent triangulation fit on those purposes. But this concurrent triangulation is not suitable for developmental, right? Because developmental, we need to validate, we need to test result of qualitative in quantitative. We need to generalize result of qualitative in quantitative. So cannot be concurrent. So this is the reason Dr. T and that I explained scale development. If your purpose is scale development, cannot be concurrent triangulation and should be sequential. But if you want to do complementary research, so the objective is to complete perspective from qualitative and quantitative. You have an existing scale. So you want to confirm that this scale is working in also Malaysian context. So this can be concurrent. And qualitative and quantitative can be conducted simultaneously, right? Okay. And the last category is the concurrent embedded. Concurrent embedded actually is different with concurrent triangulation. Concurrent triangulation, most of time, both qualitative and quantitative is applied for one and main research question. One and main research question. But this concurrent embedded, one method is nested. One method has lower priority. One method is embedded to main method. So main method, dominant method, is answer to dominant method answer to our main research question, but in embedded we have two different research questions. That main method answer main research question, but also we have another research question with lower priority, that another method answer to that research question with lower priority. So next method, second method, is embedded to first one, but still we collect data concurrently, right? For example, here we have two examples for this embedded, concurrent embedded. For example, qualitative can come first, and then we have quantitative as an embedded method, nested method. We conduct a research to understand the perception of customers. So we don't have a prior study for perception of, for example, I want to say a perception of tourists about authenticity of World Heritage Site, right? We don't have prior study, and we decide to go for qualitative. So our main method is qualitative. But still, we need to collect data. We need to collect data for socio-economic characteristic of respondent, demographic characteristic of respondent, right? So still we collect the quantitative data addition to qualitative data. So main method is qualitative method, but at the same time we collect quantitative data to understand demographic characteristic of respondent. So it's very small portion of our research, right? And is embedded to our main research question. But we analyze also we do descriptive analysis for result of demographic characteristic, right? So this is in this research, qualitative is main, but quantitative is embedded to this study, this research. So this is concurrent embedded. Qualitative is main, but quantitative is nested, embedded with lowest priority in this research. Or quantitative can be main, right? Quantitative can be main. So we investigating, again, previous example, but here now with different purpose. Quantitative is main. So we want to investigate customers' perception about green product. So main is quantitative, right? But still, we need to understand perception of other level, but this one is not actually part of main question. We don't want to do a completeness study. We don't want to complete overview, right, about customer behavior. Only we want to have perspective of some supervisor of some part in hotel, for example, in restaurant, right? Hotel restaurant. So we want to have their perception about the behavior of customers. So qualitative is not important for us. It's not supposed to add more things to our research, but still we would like to have their perception about customer behavior, right? So qualitative has lower priority in our research compared to quantitative. So second method can be embedded or a method with lower priority compared to first method. So first method, try to answer a main research question, but another method, secondary method, answer to another research question. Okay, here we have some example. Okay, I explained first one. A qualitative data is used to describe an aspect of quantitative that cannot be quantified. The concurrentness design may be employed when a researcher chooses to use different methods to study different groups or level within a design. So as explained, for example, we can collect data from customers, but we also can get idea from other level. Or another example for this one can be a school and teachers. But this time we don't actually conduct concurrent to get a complete overview. But the second part is actually to understand the perception of teachers about performance. But main method is quantitative and collecting data from student, right? So the main difference between concurrent embedded and concurrent triangulation is in concurrent triangulation, most of time, the weight of quantitative and qualitative are equal. And we need these two type of data and analyzing these two type of data to have a complete overview for concurrent triangulation. But concurrent embedded and refer to one main research question. But for concurrent embedded, we have two different research questions. And one research question is main. Secondary approach, secondary method is supposed to answer second research question that is not, is low priority compared to first one.